Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to be going through my top 10 favourite B-movie alien creatures. So any sci-fi horror movies that featured a cheap looking, cheesy, rubbery alien creature, I'm going to go through them and give you my top 10 favourite. So no xenomorphs in this video, I deem them to be a bit too mainstream in this day and age. I'm going to go through some of the more low-key and, as I say, B-movie cheesy alien creatures and let you know which ones I found to be the best. So this one should be a fun video. Let's get straight to it. In at number 10 we have the Alien from Extro from 1982. Extro for me is an okay film that happens to have a really awesome looking alien monster in it. So this one is a British film and we see a woman, she gives birth to this alien monster in quite a horrifying birth scene, and then we have this rubbery looking monster running around the British countryside, and he's got that kind of this weird link to his human son who's on Earth. And the alien does look pretty cool. It's all practical effects, and they actually hired like a mime to sort of tilt backwards on his hands and legs, which gives the alien the look that it does. And you can kind of tell that that's what they've done, but it does have kind of an uncanny way about it, which was quite unsettling and I think quite effective for the simple way that they went about it. But it's a really awesome looking, nasty looking creature. I've always liked the look of the alien in Extro. And for this movie, I very much prefer the first half of the film, where it's sort of roaming around the British countryside. It's this quite really kind of rural location. The second half of the movie does start to get a bit weird and random and really kind of throws you off a little bit. Now, director Harry Bromley Davenport, he did disclose that him and pretty much all the crew members were off their head on various substances whilst making this movie. And I believe it, because there is some random stuff that goes on in this film and really kind of takes you away from the essence of what this movie was about in terms of this alien roaming around trying to get back to his son. But there's certainly some enjoyable elements of this film. It's kind of scary in places and does have a couple of quite nasty body horror elements to it. It's often incorrectly cited as a video nasty here in the UK. It actually wasn't, but you will sometimes see it hauled in with those kind of movies. But yeah, Extro, like I say, it's an okay movie, but does have a cool looking alien creature, so I've slipped it in on this list at number 10. Next up we have the Alien from It Conquered the World from 1956. A very cheap and cheesy Roger Corman movie that sees this alien crash down to Earth, hide away in this cave, and supposedly, according to the title, take over the world. This is a fun movie, and it's one of the few movies where actually kind of the human elements interest me, probably more than the creature elements. There's a really interesting sort of subplot with the hero of the film, played by Peter Graves, and the morally questionable Lee Van Cleef, and the way they kind of bounce off each other and sort of compete with each other for their own means throughout the film. I won't go into it too much because it's definitely worth watching. But it was great seeing those two actors in this movie. They do a great job. Now the alien creature in this movie, it is more on the laughable side. I do like the design, but I mean, you can tell just from the way this alien looks that it's only ever going to be effective on perfectly flat land. So I don't know how it was ever going to effectively conquer the world. In fact, it very rarely strays out of the cave that it's hiding away in. But that just adds to the kind of the charm of this movie, and you just have the usual kind of Roger Corman tropes from the 50s of kind of the good guy scientist and his woman sidekick and the army being sent in, and there's a young Dick Miller running around in this one, which is pretty cool. It's just a really fun alien monster movie from the 1950s. And the alien creature, like I say, it is silly, but I think it looks cool. And it was one of the pieces that eventually ended up in the Bob Burns collection. So yeah, it was taken there and spruced up a little bit, and there it stayed for the rest of its time. But yeah, at number 9, we have the alien from It Conquered the World. Next up, we have the Aliens from Mars Attacks from 1996. The biggest budget movie that you'll see on this list, and Tim Burton's homage to the 1950s alien invasion movies. So another really fun film, and in this one I've just always really liked how the aliens look in this one. They have kind of like those skeletal features in their face. They kind of look like a bit Crypt Keeper-ish, but then kind of the bulbous alien heads and the beady eyes. And I always love the colours on these aliens, very colourful looking creatures. I also just love how they gleefully go about trying to take over the world and zapping people with laser guns and things like that. It's always a film that just kind of made me laugh, and they were pretty kind of like mean-spirited little alien beings in this one. But yeah, Tim Burton, I thought he did a great job in this film. It's got a really good cast, so many big names and recognisable kind of 90s actors in this one. In fact, Jack Nicholson actually accepted this movie without even reading the script, because he had such a good time making Batman with Tim Burton. He was very eager to work with him again. And the ack language that the aliens have in the movie was only supposed to be like a precursor whilst they were making the script, but it stuck during pre-production, so made its way into the movie. But yeah, I've always really liked Mars Attacks as both like a really fun 90s movie, but as I say, that hark back to the 1950s. They kind of just beefed it up with a bit more CGI and special effects and just made it a bit more of a whole like colourful spectacle. And you've got that kind of kooky Tim Burton charm in this one as well. So yeah, the aliens from Mars Attacks, they always make me smile when I see them. So that's why they're on this list. So at number 8, we have the aliens from Mars Attacks. In at number 7, we have King Ghidorah from several Godzilla movies. First seen in King Ghidorah, the three-headed monster from 1964, but you can also find him in Invasion of the Astro Monsters, Destroy All Monsters, and then in the more recent Godzilla vs. King Kong movies as well. So a very kind of prominent and lasting Godzilla monster. But King Ghidorah was a space monster that came down to Earth to threaten everyone, and had to have Godzilla fight him in order to save the world. In fact, the introduction of King Ghidorah sort of was a catalyst to moving Godzilla into more of a good guy role rather than the villainous monster that he was up until this point. But out of all the monsters, King Ghidorah for me was the one that kind of seemed like the most threatening of them all, and the one that I thought sort of Godzilla would have the hardest time fighting. Plus he looks awesome. I mean, a three-headed flying dragon alien creature is always going to be really cool. I'll probably say my favourite version of him is the Destroy All Monsters movie. It's just so cool seeing all those monsters come together and fight each other, and then they kind of all team up to fight King Ghidorah, which for me only added to the idea of just how powerful King Ghidorah was if it took all these other monsters to bring him down. And then, as I mentioned, he has made an appearance in the more modern Godzilla films and looks kind of even more epic in his look and design. So really great, effective introduction of a creature into the Godzilla franchise there. So at number 7, we have King Ghidorah. Next up, we have the alien from Without Warning from 1980. This cool looking alien creature crash lands in this kind of rural woodland setting and goes around killing people. And only Jack Palance, Martin Landau and Neville Brand can stop him. What a great cast there. You've also got a young David Caruso in this one. But the alien creature, he kind of goes round throwing these kind of squid-like shurikens at people, which hit them and bury themselves into their flesh and kind of kill the people. So really unique way that he goes around killing people off in this one. And this idea of an alien going around the woods hunting and killing people was said to be the direct inspiration for Predator. And Arnold Schwarzenegger did even cite this movie upon Predator's release as being a direct inspiration on Predator, which is really interesting. So if you want to see kind of a B-movie, low-budget prototype of Predator, definitely check out Without Warning. And I've always really liked the look of the alien creature in this one. He really does look quite UFO-like in this. So great design and great makeup. And again, linking it back to Predator, the alien was played by the great Kevin Peter Hall. So yeah, Without Warning, really fun B-movie alien film, running around in the woods. Definitely one that's worth checking out. That's number 6 on this list. Next up we have The Blob from 1988. Nothing against the 50s version, I love that one too, but it's the 80s version that has my heart. And speaking of the 50s version, Steve McQueen's son, Chad McQueen, was actually offered the lead role in the 80s remake, but turned it down because he never wanted to do anything straight off the back of what his dad did. I just thought that was interesting. But the 80s version of The Blob for me is low-key one of the best horror remakes out there, up there with The Thing and The Fly from that time. The special effects in this are absolutely fantastic. Some of the best practical, gooey body horror effects you'll see in this one. And it just has a really cool 80s feel and 80s vibe to it. Everyone in the movie does a great job, and it's a real fun film to watch. It's quite an underrated film that doesn't get the credit that it deserves, in my opinion. But yeah, the Blob is this kind of gelatinous creature that comes down in an asteroid. This kind of homeless guy finds it, latches onto his arm, as I'm sure you know, just grows bigger and bigger until it threatens the entire town. And some really cool looking blob practical effects ensue. So if you want a great 80s monster movie, a great 80s remake, definitely check out The Blob. Number 5 is the Blob monster from the 1980s remake. Next up we have the aliens from the Green Slime from 1969. And these alien creatures are quintessentially what I imagine B-movie alien monsters to look like. Green, tentacled, slimy, beady-eyed monsters lumbering around on a spaceship. It's absolutely fantastic. So this one sees some astronauts destroy this meteor that's heading towards Earth. But in doing so, they get this green slime on their ship, which leads to these tentacled monsters getting on board and causing all kinds of trouble. Kind of an American Japanese production, so you've got a mix of like a really cool American space movie with some kind of Japanese kaiju monster movie as well, and it all blends in together really well. Didn't start life that way. Green Slime was initially put together as an Italian production, which had Antonio Margheriti marked to direct it, which would have been a really interesting movie in itself, but it did become as I say, the American-Japanese production that it was. But there's nothing too deep really going on in the Green Slime. It is just these cool tentacled monsters causing havoc on a spaceship. The aliens in question were actually played by Japanese children in oversized alien suits who must have had a whale of a time on that set. But yeah, this one is just take your brain out and enjoy the crazy tentacled alien madness that is the Green Slime. In at number 3, we have the Metalunar Mutant from This Island Earth from 1955. One of my favourite movie monsters ever. I've had to put it at number 3 on this video. And the Metalunar Mutant is not really the principal character or creature in this film, but boy does it leave a mark on you when you've seen This Island Earth. So This Island Earth is a fantastic 50s movie that sees this scientist get picked up by this alien race that supposedly want to work for him, but there's some ulterior motives afoot. Mainly they're wanting to kind of ensure the survival of their dying planet, so they're not all bad. But one of the creatures that's roaming around on this planet is the Metalunar Mutant, and it looks awesome. It's a really cool mix of kind of alien and like insectoid look, which for me just really works and is really, really iconic. I love kind of the big brain bulbous head and the insect eyes and kind of the weird claw hands. that it has. It's just really, really awesome. And the fact that it's not in the movie that much kind of wanted me to see it more, which only added to the mystique of the Metalunar mutant. Now, for years, I only ever saw This Island Earth within the Mystery Science Theatre movie, where they watch it and rip into it. And it always put me off watching the movie because I never thought I could look at it seriously. But a while back I did watch the film on its own in its entirety, and despite having some of the Mystery Science Theatre playing in my head, I was surprised just how legitimately good This Island Earth is. So if you've only seen the Mystery Science Theatre version, do yourself a favour and check out This Island Earth on its own, the way that it was supposed to be seen. It's a really fantastic sci-fi film from the 1950s, and the Metalunar mutant, being so cool, is number 3 on this list. In at number 2, we have Night Beast from 1982, one of my favourite horror movies. And this is a film that just kicks it into gear within the first minute of getting started. Immediately into the film, the spaceship crashes into the woods on Earth, and the Night Beast is out there causing all kinds of problems. Lots of kills in this one, and they very much range on the scale from quite raw and gruesome kills of people having their guts pulled out by the Night Beast, to the Night Beast disintegrating people with a laser gun. So there's all sorts of crazy stuff that goes on in this one, and that the local law enforcement team have to try and stop the Night Beast by battling like the corrupt mayor and things like that. It's such a fun, low budget B-movie film, directed by Don Dola, who was the absolute man for low budget alien creature movies. Any one of his films are just gleefully entertaining, but it's Night Beast for me that kind of provides the most entertainment, and is just this crazy, throw everything out there and watch this Night Beast creature do his thing. I've always liked the look of the Night Beast as well. He's got those gnarly looking fangs and the beady eyes, and he gets a ton of screen time as well. And interestingly, in terms of Night Beast, the music for this was created by J.J. Abrams. So yeah, the man who is at the helm of modern Star Wars actually worked on Night Beast, which is pretty incredible. In fact, if the new Star Wars was more like Night Beast, I'd probably like them more. But yeah, number 2, one of my favourite monster movies of all time, Night Beast. And in at number 1, my favourite B-movie alien creature of all time is The Deadly Spawn from 1983. One of my favourite movies. I adore this movie. If I was ever lucky enough to make a horror film myself, I think the film that would be the most similar to what I made would be The Deadly Spawn. And this movie, it's very cheap, it's kind of tacky, but I legit think they made a really good film with what they have. The characters in it are really good, they're quite likeable. You've got a teenager that loves horror films, which is like, wow. It's written really well. There's some really good dialogue and sort of spoken nuances in this film, which I think are quite clever. The Deadly Spawn looks amazing. The practical effects are great. It gets a ton of screen time, and it's really gory as well. You don't usually get creature features that are as gory as the Deadly Spawn. There's sort of flesh being pulled off, people's heads getting bitten off, arms and limbs and severed heads going everywhere. It's just fantastic. In fact, the severed head of the mum actually ended up belonging to Gene Simmons from Kiss, which is a crazy bit of trivia right there. And the ending as well. Oh my goodness, the ending of The Deadly Spawn is just way more epic than it should be. I won't spoil it, but yeah, you should definitely check that out. But yeah, for me, The Deadly Spawn is just a gleefully gory and violent alien creature feature that I just don't know how you can't be entertained by such a film if you're into those kind of things. One of my favourite looking creature designs as well. I could talk about The Deadly Spawn all day. It is my number 1 favourite B-movie alien creature and kind of general monster creature anyway. So yeah, when I was going through my number 1, there was only one alien monster to pick, and it was The Deadly Spawn. So at number 1, we do have The Deadly Spawn. So there you go, guys. That is my top 10 favourite B-movie alien creatures. Let me know what you think about that list. Do you agree? If not, let me know which ones would make your top 10. I'd love to know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.